This is a Fox News Alert. Hello, everyone. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle. Welcome to the 5 on this very hectic day in Washington, D.C. There was supposed to be a vote this afternoon on the Republican bill to repeal and replace Obamacare. But just a short time ago, House Speaker Paul Ryan pulled the bill from the floor on orders of the president. The reason? They didn't have enough votes for it to pass. Here's the president moments ago.
We were very close. It was a very, very tight margin. We had no Democrat support. We had no votes from the Democrats. They weren't going to give us a single vote, so it's a very difficult thing to do. I've been saying for the last year and a half that the best thing we can do, politically speaking, is let Obamacare explode. It is exploding right now. I want to thank the Republican Party. I want to thank Paul Ryan. He worked very, very hard. I will tell you that. He worked very, very hard. Tom Price and Mike Pence, who's right here, our vice president, our great vice president. Everybody worked hard. I worked as a team player and would have loved to have seen it pass, but again...
Do you feel betrayed by the House Freedom Caucus at all? They seem to be the most difficult to get.
No, I'm not betrayed. They're friends of mine. I'm disappointed because we could have had it. So I'm disappointed. I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you. That thing. I'm disappointed, but they're friends of mine, and you know, they got on. It was a very hard time for them, and a very hard vote. That thing. I'm disappointed.
Paul Ryan also addressed the dramatic turn of events.
We came really close today, but we came up short. I spoke to the president just a little while ago, and I told him that the best thing I think to do is to pull this bill, and he agreed with that decision. This is a disappointing day for us. Doing big things is hard. And I want to thank so many members who helped make this bill better. A lot of our members put a lot of hard work into this. I also want to thank the president. I want to thank the vice president. I want to thank Tom Price, Mick Mulvaney, and the entire White House team. The president gave his all in this effort. He did everything he possibly could to help people see the opportunity that we have with this bill. He's really been fantastic. Still, we got to do better, and we will. I absolutely believe that.
Joining us for reaction and analysis is our chief political anchor, Bret Baier. Bret, thanks for joining us on the 5.
Sure.
You know, a lot of developments today that we thought perhaps maybe last night, late into night, they maybe had a chance. But kind of your thoughts about the way this unfolded and then the two statements that we just saw from Speaker Ryan and the president.
Well, I think both of them talked about how the other worked very well and closely with the other. But behind the scenes, there clearly is some blame and pointing going on. There's a feeling, and I think you saw it in some of the pieces that came out, including the New York Times piece at the White House, that this wasn't the best thing to go out with first. Then you had at the Capitol, some feeling about the Freedom Caucus members, the conservative House members, who really stuck to their guns. Really, this bill didn't rip up Obamacare from its roots. It didn't truly repeal Obamacare, and that's what these conservatives had a problem with. The moderates wanted to make a deal because you take the deal that you're given and then pass it on to the Senate and see what they can come up with. Now, this Republican Congress is going to move on to tax reform, and it's a lot harder after taking a body blow on the first legislative try. The president took a hit today.
All right, we all have some questions for you. We'll take it around the table. Okay, Bob, you have a question?
Yeah, Bret, I listened to President Trump blame the Democrats, say we didn't get a single Democratic vote, and that really was part of the problem. Well, I guess history doesn't stick with this guy very well because we didn't get a single Republican vote for Obamacare. So is he really going to try to lay this on the Democrats when, in fact, the Republicans were the ones who refused to give a single vote or negotiate on the last bill?
Well, I think one of the things you could say definitively is that it's not the best way to run a government, is to have no votes from the other side. You're right, there were no Republican votes, and no, there weren't expected to be any Democratic votes on this bill. But the president's mentioning that, I think, Bob, to get to the point that now Obamacare, he said, is owned by the Democrats. When it explodes, they'll come to us and we'll make one big, beautiful bill. I don't know if it's going to get to that point. There will be efforts, I think, on Capitol Hill to try to fix some of the problems before some of these states don't have any options. Right now, they only have one insurer. Some of them will have zero before long.
I got,
Eric, you have a question?
Well, more of a comment, Brett. So we see now, who liked this bill? Let's put it this way. You point out the Freedom Caucus didn't like it, and they were clearly having problems getting that group to get behind it. But then moderates started to peel off as recently as this morning, one from New Jersey and another one as well. Quinnipiac had a poll out yesterday saying only 17% of Americans polled think this was a good plan going forward. There it is, 17 approved. 56% said no, the other 27% weren't sure. American Medical Association, Heritage Foundation, Cato didn't like it. Dems didn't like it. I mean, at some point, you got to hang it on someone, and I've been doing this for 3.5 weeks now, hanging it on leadership in the House. Aren't they the only ones really who did like this bill?
Well, the president said he liked it. The vice president said he liked it. The White House said they liked it. They said it was the bill, the chance that Republicans had to do it.
They don't get a vote, Brett. They don't get a vote.
They have influence, clearly.
They needed to bring that. And Paul Ryan told the president, I have one that I can bring to you that you can go sell, and he didn't have it.
Sure, he did not have the votes, and he said that the president tried mightily to try to get many members to come over to the yes side, to make no's into yes. You remember he was in the Oval Office with members of the Freedom Caucus and the Republican Study Conference, where he said all these people here, they were all no's, and now they're yeses. So he was invested in getting to yes, the president was. And remember that this is a presidential leadership issue when you lay out your agenda. Yes, it was the House of Representatives and Paul Ryan who had the strategy of doing it this way. But when you can't tell the elevator story of what's good about this bill to somebody in middle America, you've lost, and that's why you see 17% in that poll. They had to explain that there were 3 phases, that the good stuff about market competition happened in phase 3. It just wasn't easy to sell.
Okay, Dana has a question for you, Brett.
So earlier today, Minority Whip Steny Hoyer said that he'd be willing to work with the president. So he conceded that there were problems in the individual market and that they needed to be fixed. He thought that they could be, and that he thought that now if the president didn't get this bill and get it in this way, that maybe he'd be willing to sit down with them and try to fix that. Now, I don't know if he was bluffing, but do you think that's something the president might be willing to do?
Well, I think that he's signaling that now, and that I don't know how long they're going to wait, but clearly there are real problems with Obamacare in many different parts of the country, and they're going to have to play now on that framework, because it's clear that Republicans are not going to be able to get enough votes to repeal it from its roots. So they're going to have to fix it with Democratic help. There's no Democrat who is going to vote to rip up the Obamacare structure, and I think the president's going to reach out and try to get Democrats. I talked to Chuck Schumer in an interview recently, and he said once the repeal effort is over, we're going to come forward with some ideas about how to fix Obamacare as it stands now.
All right, Greg, you have a question.
Yes, I do, Kimberly. Thank you. Brett, let's be frank here. Is it entirely possible that the Russians could have tampered with this vote? I don't think you can disprove this. I think Rand Paul colluded with Putin to undermine the vote so the White House would rehire Paul Manafort.
Did you have something else, Bob? Oh, sorry. Listen, there was no vote. There was never going to be a vote. And
there you go. There was never going to be a vote.
If they didn't have the numbers, it was never coming to a vote. I don't think it was the Russians.
Oh, my goodness. I hope we haven't tainted you too much, Brett Baier.
It's all good.
Well, we look forward to your show at 6 o'clock. I know you'll have some smart analysis.
What does that say? We don't smart analysis here? I thought Greg's analysis was
Thank you. Exactly. All right, so listener, we're going to take it around the table again. Tell us what you really think, Bob.
Well, what I really think is that there's no question it was a loss for Trump, but I want to give Trump credit here for a second. His strategy almost pulled this thing off. When he said to the Freedom Caucus, look, this is your one chance. I'm not going to sit around. What the Freedom Caucus, I assume, thought was going to happen. The bill was going to be pulled back. They were going to negotiate stuff they would like, and then they'd bring the bill back out. Trump said, no, let's vote on this thing up or down, or get out, and you don't have a chance to get rid of Obamacare. I think that moves some votes. On the other hand, the idea that somehow this is a Democratic loss, first of all, Obamacare is already a Democratic bill. That's no big secret. I think for Trump to try to move on to tax reform may be a good idea, but let's put it this way. He tried Not a bad try, but he lost.
Bowling, if you were there, you wouldn't have voted for this. I mean, you've been very
Bob's
strong.
wrong. Bob's right about something, but he's wrong about it. He almost pulled it off. I don't think there was any movement. There was always 25 problems in the Freedom Caucus. There were additional 3 more yesterday, and then you got some moderates peeling off today. They needed probably 30 votes, and they didn't have them. Here's the point. Here's how it works. It should work. It's a democracy, right? So the Republicans want to bring a bill that they want the president to eventually sign, and they have to unite behind this bill. The problem with the bill that they brought, and this is the truth, this is leadership bill. This is Paul Ryan. This is Brady, Weldon, and McCarthy, and a couple of chairmen of some committees who put this together. The Freedom Caucus said we want to be involved in the process. Let conservatives get involved. And they said, no, we have the votes. This is the bill we're going to present. They presented the bill. Trump said, I'll try and sell that bill. And they never had the votes, and they couldn't get the votes. So they put it on Trump saying that they had them, and they didn't. So, no, Bob, it wasn't Trump care. It's still leadership in the GOP care.
Okay, Dana, where do they go from here? And they basically are saying, well, now you're going to fall on your own sword. You were unwilling to come to the table to do something, so now take your medicine.
Not sure, you know, because between now and Monday, there are probably 3 major news stories. The news cycle changes so fast that they'll have to deal with the analysis and take their lumps. But they did run on this for 7 years.
Yeah.
And in February 2016, you know, and all throughout the campaign, all the Republican candidates and President Trump said, I think as early as October, like, just wait till you see my plan. It's going to be fabulous. And I just think that reality is setting in about Americans' viewpoints about health care and health benefits and who they want to take care of and how we're going to pay for it. And I think that they'll try to move on to the parallel track that they were running on with tax reform. I think it gets harder because they had tax savings in this health bill that they're not going to have now. But I think that one of the things is, can they get up off the mat on Monday? And I assume that they can. Life will go on. This is like, it's not fatal. It kind of stinks, but it's not the worst thing that ever happened.
Is it? Oh, I'm sorry, Greg.
I have a follow-up question for Dana, though. But why bring this if they didn't know they had the votes? You know, that's the thing, to be that off the mark and to have this be your first piece going forward, unless some assurances were made. But, I mean, this was, you know, a substantial chunk.
Well, I don't know all of their strategy, and I guess that we'll probably read a lot about that this weekend. I think that one thing that I liked about President Trump's approach this morning was he said, I'm calling for the vote. And I thought that was good. Right? Like,
I thought so too.
He's not risk averse. He's like, let's just let the chips fall where they may. But I think politically he understood and was persuaded that if they forced the vote, that then it didn't matter. The right or the left was going to come after all of those members, and for what? It wouldn't have advanced anywhere. Another thing would be to see, okay, Freedom Caucus and Rand Paul and others, do you have something that the other members of the House, and then, of course, then in the Senate, that they could rally around? And maybe they have that, and it'll be, well, it's not urgent that they pass it. The president will be president for at least 4 years. It kind of stinks that the first one out of the gate was not successful for them, but I think they'll have many successes going forward.
You know, with having these majorities, this is the big opportunity to be able to get this put forward. I mean, it was such a big piece of the campaign, and repeal and replace Obamacare, and then to, you know, I mean, it's just disappointing, I guess.
Well, I mean, this is supposed to be Donald Trump's wheelhouse. You know, he's a salesman. He could talk a fat kid off a fudgesicle. But here's the difference. It's not his fault, because he's used to dealing with people in deals with financial incentives. Doesn't matter what you believe. There's no ideology. When you sit down and you're making a deal over a piece of property or you're selling a car, you don't care what they believe.
Because you have skin in the game.
Yeah, and the skin is only financial. Politics is different. The skin is different. You have bitter adversaries. You have political and ideological differences. And within the Republican Party, which is known as a big tent, you have differences within differences. You have factions who apparently unite under one idea of individual freedoms. However, they can't agree on anything. And so I think that this is a learning experience for him, and that this is not a business deal. Politics stinks. It just stinks. They could have had something, but they couldn't get it. They couldn't line up behind that guy. And this is a difference between the right and the left. The right has differences within differences. The left are half sheep, half robots. They're showbots. You know, they will all fall in line perfectly. And you know who's right now? There is a shirtless guy drinking a pina colada, laughing his butt off on some island, and that's Barack Obama.
Yeah, that's. Wait, just so we make one point.
Conveniently unavailable for a month.
When Donald Trump, one of the more disgraceful things I think he said today was, Obamacare is going to fall apart. This is a good political thing to happen. Let it fall apart. You're talking about millions, hundreds of millions of people who are on health care, and they're on Obamacare.
No,
and you want it to fall apart.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
Not hundreds of millions of people on Obamacare.
Okay, so say there's 70 million.
No, there's like 12 million, and half of those are are expanded
and
Medicaid.
Medicaid.
Stop it.
No, don't stop it. Medicaid.
How many Obamacare, Bob? Medicaid was always there before
Obamacare was Medicaid
Can I just point out-
expanded.
But wait, can I just respond to Bob? Because what you're actually saying, this is what was learned from Rahm Emanuel. You never let any kind of catastrophe go to waste. What Donald Trump is saying, this thing's going to implode, and that's going to be an opportunity for a different bill.
It's going to be a tough deal
But
when it
Bob's
doesn't
fine when the
implode.
Democrats use that and make opportunity out of something political misfortune, but not on the other side, which I can understand. At least you're
So
consistent.
let me use your CEO example, your example of Donald Trump, the CEO, who's used to getting money people bringing him deals and saying, okay, this is the one I can sell. This is good for the company.
Yeah.
That is exactly what happened. And Kimberly points out last night, I think late last night, he said, it's a yes or a no, guys. I'm done selling this thing. And it was always going, it was a no. Believe me, at that point, it was a no. So then they had to figure it out. The point is, the person that brings you that deal that says this is amazing, this is going to be great for the company, and it's a flop, what do you usually do with them?
However,
you got to get rid of them.
But the other thing, too,
demote them.
it's the difference between like being a macro and a micromanager.
You're fired.
Maybe read more about the bill.
He's still scared. A lot of people that need to be scared tonight as he sits in his fat house with his fat food and everything else he's got.
What's wrong with
What is wrong with you? What's that about?
People who are
Are you
sitting
talking
out
about
there
the
on
White House?
Obamacare.
Do you realize there are more people who would be without health care under this bill than Obamacare?
Yeah,
More people.
Yeah, that's right. Republicans, that's a classic Republican deal.
If anything, all those people are wiping their brow going, thank God we still have Obamacare instead of this thing.
That's right. I think that's right. But the question is, when he says it's going to implode, he doesn't know that. It was supposed to implode 3 years ago, according to most of you guys.
Actually,
and it hasn't.
the insurance CEOs are the ones who are saying that it's not going to be successful.
And they'll be at the marketplace,
Well,
believe me.
the president
But they're already
made that
not.
point that they said the information they're hearing back from the exchanges and whatnot, that this is not sustainable, which we already knew, and we've had more than ample evidence of this, about its financial misery, the state that it's in. So ultimately, people being unwilling to come to the table, who's going to suffer?
So
Those
who's
people
going
that want to have
melt
health
down?
care
Does that
and
mean
choices.
nobody has health insurance?
No, that you have free market incentives. You have
So people like you and me
accounts.
can afford to buy it.
No, it's for everybody. The people who aren't rich can buy cars. They can buy things. In a free market, there's competition.
Bob, the number is somewhere around 9 million people, okay? That's the
million
number of
people
people
who
who are
didn't have-
buying Obamacare without the massive subsidies in Medicaid. That's the number.
You got to
you
include
make
the
it out
Medicaid subsidies. You didn't have it
They
before.
were. Yes, you did, Bob.
You didn't. Ohio's got a lot more Medicaid money.
My point is, if you this bill would have put 52 million people off health care.
Yes.
52 million people.
And why? Because Medicaid would have been cut off.
Right.
That's right.
But that's the point.
Well, that's my point.
The best thing that happened to the Republicans is this thing fails.
Well, that may be the best thing that happened. It's not the
Can
best.
you imagine, Dana, can you imagine running on this thing being the bill
Right.
and your premiums are exploding in middle to lower incomes?
No.
And
Why
your
did
premiums-
your president get so
and
far
you're
behind
You're
it?
a congressman in Kansas
Okay.
going, re-elect me?
No.
Good Lord.
Good Lord. I think we need some health care at this table, for sure, Bob.